Petrol prices around Australia have come down since the federal government halved the fuel excise in the budget.
So you're offering a great price. You guys better fill up. This is a good price.
The 6-month cut to the tax on each litre sold is just a temporary attempt to ease the cost of living ahead of the election.
It's temporary, it's targeted, it's affordable.
Well, this is a temporary change.
But some motoring groups fear political pressure could make the measure more permanent and think that would bode badly for the future of the nation's roads.
We find it very hard to believe that in September the Treasurer of the day is going to happily increase petrol prices by 25 cents a litre. It's already cost the budget $3 billion. They do this for another 6 months, 12 months. We're talking many billions of dollars not there for Transport Network.
The flat tax does not directly fund the Transport Network, but it is an important budget item that politicians regularly link to infrastructure like new bridges. Few people think about it, but if you drive an average petrol SUV, you're paying roughly $5 in excise for every 100 kilometres you drive. And if you have an electric car, then you, of course, don't pay it at all. For years now, there has been debate about replacing fuel excise with a new uniform national system of road user charges, and many believe the Commonwealth should now be playing more of a role.
It's completely unsustainable as a tax. I would like to think that when September rolls around and the Treasurer is tasked with increasing petrol prices by 25 cents overnight, I would think that's not a bad time to start a conversation about what our long-term tax system should look like, because the penetration of EVs, that's a great thing for the environment, it's a terrible thing for the federal budget.
It is curious to think that at an election in 2022, when tackling climate change is a top concern of many voters, one tax change both major parties agree on is a short-term cut to excise on fossil fuels. But neither of the men vying to become Prime Minister is discussing the longer-term problem of how to raise revenue from drivers in the future as we slowly transition to electric cars, or, for that matter, what to do about the overall state of Australia's finances, which have an ongoing shortfall.
Certainly over the next 10 years or so, we're not at the moment projected to head back into surplus anytime soon, and that level of debt is certainly on the increase and looking to be quite substantial, well over $1 trillion into the future.
ANU Professor Ben Phillips says that means at some point the federal government needs to reform and raise taxes, or cut spending, or grow the economy, and perhaps a combination of all three.
Growing the economy is always a noble goal, but difficult to necessarily achieve, particularly in the short to medium term.
The support for the floating of the dollar was clear.
Economists have long urged Australian politicians to look at longer-term and big-picture reforms akin to those pushed through in the 80s and 90s to boost productivity and our prosperity in the coming decades.
This very important discussion paper.
There is no shortage of ideas to fix the budget and grow the economy. For example, most of the proposals in the 2010 Henry Tax Review have gathered dust on a shelf.
Let's spend the taxpayers' money as though it is our money.
So have a number of the recommendations in Tony Shepherd's 2014 Commission of Audit.
The problem is that the community's got used to free or cheap money. We have to get them off that, and we have to also get the community to understand that economic reform really is the only way that we can protect ourselves for the future fiscally and economically and enjoy a higher standard of living.
Aside from introducing new road user charges, other ideas for reform often put forward include putting the GST on more items, pricing carbon emissions more effectively, and helping the states replace inefficient stamp duties with land taxes. But as recent history shows, those sorts of ideas can be very politically poisonous. Even many leading policy thinkers are reluctant to float them in a campaign because leaders are so often then asked to rule them out for the next 3 years.
For Australia to continue to grow and prosper, there always needs to be a discussion around economic reform and also social reform. I think sometimes we forget that a good society is also a good economy. Unfortunately, it's been a pretty toxic one that we've had in recent years and even recent decades.
One economic issue that has been discussed at length in this campaign is how to boost the pay packets of workers. Unions are currently urging the industrial umpire to increase the minimum wage by 5.5% to $21.45 an hour, arguing if workers could see themselves getting ahead, then they might be open to broader reform.
Workers are becoming pretty frustrated with hearing wages will go up if productivity goes up, because productivity has gone up every single year and workers haven't seen the benefits of that.
Business groups want the pay increase to be limited to no more than 3%.
We have to have responsible wages outcomes that don't fuel inflation and end up adding to higher interest rates in the future.
The Prime Minister has indicated that's a concern for him too. Scott Morrison has repeatedly said he has no special wand to boost wages and argued that increases should be left to the industrial umpire.
We have always welcomed and accepted the recommendations that have come from that body. That is the appropriate way. Well, of course I do. That's why we've halved the petrol tax.
This is one area of major difference between the two leaders, and today Anthony Albanese declared the lowest earners in the country should get pay rises that at least keep up with the cost of living. It's a move that is likely to have some popular appeal, but it'll worry some business groups because inflation is currently at 5.1% and forecast to go even higher before the end of the year.
You said you don't want people to go backwards. Does that mean you would support a wage hike of at least 5.1% just to keep up with inflation?
Absolutely.
And secondly,
we think no one should go backwards. People should be at least keeping up with the cost of living.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.